Okay, shall we start, Miss Yong?
Yes, I'm ready. What about you, Atul?
I am definitely more than ready.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar brought to you by PSA e-learning unit. My name is Rabiatul Adawiyah binti Abdul Zawawi. I'll be your moderator today. On behalf of the organizer, we are so excited that you are able to join us today. We have a great presentation coming up for everyone here as we will be talking about a learner-centered online class. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please turn off your camera and mute your speaker. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your control panel. We will have a question and answer session at the end of this webinar. Okay, our speaker today, Ms. Yong, is no stranger to PSA and Polytechnic Malaysia. She pioneered the establishment of Girl Guides in Polytechnic Malaysia and also a certified professional coach. As a coach, Ms. Yong provides training and guidance for Polytechnic Malaysia lecturers in the coaching and mentoring sphere, creating a smooth path for their career advancement. As an educator, she always goes above and beyond when it comes to teaching, as she is very passionate about making a difference. Knowing Miss Yong, I know nothing can stop you, not even COVID-19 pandemic. During this movement control order period that started on the 18th of March, she has had her plates full, or rather overflowing. Ms. Yong, do you mind sharing with us how you keep yourself occupied during this difficult time?
Well, thank you, Rabiatul, for the great and extravagant introduction. For me, during the MCO period, I was pretty fortunate to be able to serve for the Girl Guides of Malaysia to produce our World Association of Girl Guide and Girl Scout online programs. So to make all these programs such as reading me on body confidence, action on body confidence, to advocate on body confidence, stop the violence, serve smart, and combat leadership mindset, and make all these programs online for Girl Guides in Malaysia. So not just that, during that MCO period as well, I managed to produce a series of membership training for Girl Guides all over Malaysia. And what's fun also, we had a social gathering virtually, connecting all of us and also Girl Guides all around the world. So it was pretty insightful to know that even during this difficult time, we are still able to cope. So not just that, I managed to also conduct my own online classes for my degree students, and that is why it brings me here on perhaps to share a little bit on what it means to take a learner-centered, to conduct a learner-centered online class.
Wow, even though that sounds a bit daunting, but it is also very inspiring. And you did have your plates overflowing, Miss Young. Okay, let's not waste time. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. So let's begin. A learner-centered online class. All right, so just a little bit of ground agreement to remind you also, like what the Madam Moderator has reminded you. So probably just mute your speakers when not speaking and unmute when you want to. We are free to take questions when the Q&A session is open or whenever that is prompted by the moderator or myself. So just a couple of reminders. This is a sharing session and the presentation may not generalize to all classroom settings. So you as the educator will have to decide whether is this applicable and how can I use it? And with that, the session aims to provide you with an idea, if not another option, instead of one size fits all solution. So we started around 2:50 and I suppose we will end at 3:50 sharp. So what are we going to cover for today? I have managed to just arrange my presentation in these 5 areas. Okay, first, introduction. Second would be why learner-centered. I think it's very important for us to establish the purpose to why do we want a learner-centered online class. And next, how can it be done? And lastly, what are our uptakes? What can we take away from the session? And lastly, your call, question and answer. If you have any questions, just feel free to post them in the chat room and we will take up the questions whenever possible. Let me just ask you one simple question. If you managed to conduct a few during the lockdown, how did your online classes look like? As far as I know that PSA lecturers managed to conduct, if not 1 or 2, online classes during the lockdown before the final exam or before the final test took place. So if you managed to conduct a few during the lockdown, and if you managed to recall, how did your online classes look like? Was it chaotic? Was it filled with uninterested students or perhaps interested students? Or was it all under your control and you deciding everything and you just teaching, focusing on teaching merely? So this brings you to my reveal. So my online classes at the beginning of MCO period looks like this. It was entirely direct instruction from me. I was focused merely on the teaching instead of students learning. And there was plenty of me talk. And when that happens, this is what I got. All black screens facing me. And it was completely boring. Because for my students, I suppose, when they are not involved in the process, they turn off their screens. They can just hear. Why should they be present physically online? So it was a rather one-way relationship between me and my students online. It was merely me talking to my students and a little bit of responses from my students whenever I pinpoint names for them to register, to answer. So does that register? Does that give you an idea? So for me, this class was for my degree students and for the topic and for the subject English for academic writing, and firstly conducted through Zoom because during that time we have not established Microsoft Teams yet. So my reflection was this. There was a huge gap between what I did in the classroom on a usual basis. I mean, before the MCO period, I always think myself as a very active, passionate lecturer in the classroom. So there was a huge gap between that and what I did online. And not just that, it feels so overwhelming online to try to address and appeal to each and every learner. And I thought I was interesting explaining behind the screen, online, lessons, reminders, units, whatever topic that they have to know, passing out knowledge. But on the online sphere, it's a different story. They are not interested. So, or probably a few good ones are interested, but the other good ones not so interested. So I thought to myself, if this is going to prolong online classes, I wanted to make a bigger difference. What kind of difference do I want to make? I want more engagement from the students. I want more interaction and not just me. And most importantly, I want more interested learners. So if I'm going to do that, I do not want the burden to fall entirely on me, preparing nights and weeks, interesting slides and preparing how my online class will go, and in the end coming to black screens. So I began to think, how can I make my classes more learner-centered? So that's the introduction. Yay, and we're done for the first part. So let's move on. Why learner-centered? A bit, since we are all academicians, learner-centered is defined as a focus on individual learners, taking into account their experiences, perspectives, backgrounds, talents, interests, capacity, and needs. Which means that they are actually well versed with technology. We have to take into account of all of those things, with a focus on learning instead of my teaching, and the best available knowledge about learning and how it occurs, and about teaching practices that are the most effective in promoting the highest level of motivation, learning, and achievement for all learners. So what this simply means is that learner-centered classroom focuses on learning, focuses on learners, and to keep them geared in motivation and in learning and to achieve as learners. So this is an approach that places the learner at the heart of learning instead of teachers in the heart of teaching, because at the end of the day, we want learners to learn. We want them to be better individuals at knowledge, okay? And most importantly, we want them to be responsible for learning instead of taking the burden entirely on us as educators. And I wanted also teaching to shift, instead of entirely on me, to shift to facilitating. So when that happens, the learner becomes active instead of passive. And when learners are active, what happens? They learn. So in order for learners to be active, we as educators will have to take a slight passive role, the backseat role, in order to give way to them to be active. So why learner-centered online classroom? These are my main 3 points. It helps to develop learners who can learn and work on their own. Isn't that what we want as educators? We want them to be independent of problem solving, and we want them to be lifelong learners. And not just that, we want to put the responsibility of learning in the hands of learners, because learning should be that way. It should be a shared burden, but at the same time, the responsibility shouldn't be on us educators only. So we have to encourage them to be more active and responsible participants. And lastly, learner-centered classroom is always favored and good practice because it becomes a shared responsibility between educators and learners to meet the goals of the lesson. So that's my second part. Are you ready to move on to our third part? Okay, so now the gist of it, the essence, the meat of the burger. How can a learner-centered online class be done? And it takes roughly around 20 minutes. Stay on with me. I have actually produced a 6 steps model which craft the 6 steps I used in order to create this learner-centered online classroom. Number 1 is creating and planning. As educators, you need to know what lesson plan, which unit, and what topics to be covered for the online classroom. Second, this is where you group your students. Well, in normal classes, we do a lot of grouping of students, isn't it? All right. For this, it takes a little bit of shift. Instead of grouping students physically, we are going to group them using Microsoft Teams. Okay, and if you've undergone Microsoft Teams courses, you will know how to group students. But if you do not know, it is simply creating channels, which I will show you later how it looks. Number 3, disseminating instructions. So in this learner-centered online class, students need to know clearly and specifically what to do. Because if learning is going to be entirely on them, they need to know what they need to achieve. All right, so on your part, you have to make clear instructions to learners on what they are expected of and what to do. From the technical aspects of it, like reminding them to record, making sure that they mute when their friends are speaking, and monitoring throughout the process on what they are expected of the goal of the discussion, of the work that they're supposed to produce, and to simple stuff like using the chat system and stuff like that. So you have to make clear instructions. And number 4 is choosing the topics for the groups and working in groups. So for this, I give a little bit of liberation to students, whereby they are free to choose who they want to partner with. Okay, and I gave my suggestion. So they say, oh, it's too bothersome for them to really pick their friends. So I can just select based on what I think is best for my online class. Alright, so over here, number 4, students will work on the task in their groups. And for us, educators, we just facilitate and supervise and support. Number 5, presenting work and providing rooms for peer feedback. So when a learner-centered online class approach is used, you will see a lot of feedback from students, engaging, interacting. And it's not just you and students, but it's students and students, students from different groups. So it's all multi-level and dynamic, I would say. Okay. And lastly, before you end the topic, you have to close by providing feedback. And next, close the topic. So over here, you can summarize what they have done, and you can also wrap up. So let's get into the gist of it. Okay, step 1, creating and planning. I just give you an example. What I covered during this online class was learner-centered online class was this unit 2. I was supposed to teach. No, I was supposed. Sorry. Okay. I taught Unit 2 writing different types of essay for the subject English for academic writing. So over here, there are 6 topics and 6 different types of essays to cover. Narrative, comparison and contrast, cause and effect, persuasive, argumentative, classification. So I was thinking, if I had to prepare all these 6 types of essay and how to write these types of essay on my own, and then to bring this online and to present it to my students, they are going to bore to death. Okay, because the topics for each component of the essay, what has to be covered are this, how to write the essay, and not just that, what to write. Okay, so I gave them a learner-centered online class, and this was how I did it. What I did first was to provide context for my unit or chapter. So I have to begin, okay? This is a little bit of a teacher role first, okay? To tell them why is there the need to write academic essays? Why do they need to know the different types of essays? And what are the major types of essays? Then I started giving them a group task with, if you can see here, number 8, okay, which I will show even clearer later. And then I break them out into group breakouts. Okay, so group breakouts, I call it breakouts because all these group, the activities are taking place simultaneously, which means at the same time. And they have to do it at the same time. That's why it's called breakout room. Okay, so no one escapes from this breakout room. All right, so things I also plan. Okay, when I gave them the group breakouts, I also gave them the group members, and the first name is the leader. So what the leader has to do is the leader has to initiate the discussion online. Okay, the leader has to look after time. If I say 30 minutes is up, 30 minutes is up in the online group, and then they have to get back to general group after 30 minutes. And not just that, group leader also has to start the group discussion recording because I will be monitoring their recording. Okay, after the class or even during the class, and the group leader is responsible to share the slides after the discussion in the general group, so everyone gets to see. And not just that, what about the group members? The group members here play a role to contribute to the discussion, and all these group members, you can use many approaches to select them in group. It can be either randomly selected, you just put names, or systematic selection, you want all number 1, 3, 5 to be in one group, okay, and then the next and so on, or you want a cluster. A metric number from 1 to 10, one group, 11 to 20, another group, and so on. It's up to you. All okay so far? All right, so this is how the grouping of my students look online. I have the breakout room, if you can see, okay, and if you can see here, I also placed it in my general, okay, on Teams, my general page, who are the members for each group, so that it is clearly disseminated for the instruction. So now, if we look over here too, okay, disseminating instruction is so important, okay, that I do not just do it verbally during the online classroom, but I also use this platform to post, okay, what matters during the class. Okay, example, dear students, please post all your slides. We will begin the next session soon after. Mention your breakout room number and type of essay when you post. So, you know, they start posting. So this was my group task. Look into the designated type of essay in groups, discuss and find out the following. These 5 questions that I gave, which means during the group discussion, students know what they are expected and students know what to discuss, what to find. All right. And this is the group breakout. Okay, so 6 groups altogether. All right. So it's important also, okay, to know that when you are disseminating instruction, these are the things that you have made known to the students. Very important. Okay. Online class, what matters is especially the mute button. Teach your students to mute and unmute so that, you know, the class goes on well. Step 4, working in groups. If you can see, the moment the time starts, I say, okay, you have 30 minutes, students, to look through this group task, okay? Find the answers to these 6 questions, prepare a slide, okay? So if you can say, you say, what is the type of essay? How is this essay different from other essays? What are the example of topics? Using one topic, build an essay outline. Then prepare your task using slides and present. So they are clear, that is what expected of them. And in that 30 minutes, they have to perform their discussion, conduct their discussion, and after 30 minutes, they will have to send in their slides to the general group for review and to present. Okay, so if you can see, okay, this is pretty much group 1 over here, and then this is group 2. Okay, this is group 3. This is group 4, okay, very active members. Group 5, okay, and groups. So which group do you think produced the best presentation from the chat system that you see? 1? Is it 1, 2? Okay, so if you see that, oh, the chat room looks rather empty, it doesn't mean sometimes that your students are not active. They could be actively discussing, okay, in the online channel. So don't penalize and look at your chat room and say, oh, not much of things here. Okay, they are not discussing. And as a lecturer yourself, you can always enter or join their meeting in a specific breakout room to facilitate the discussion. Okay, so step 5, presenting work and providing rooms for peer feedback. So if it's going to be a teacher-centered classroom, there is very minimal room for peer feedback. But for a learner-centered, there will be more for peer feedback. Okay, because when they present over here, the slides are visible to everyone. Okay, everyone's screen, and it feels there's a personal touch, and not just that, students can always use the chat room to talk about it. Right, so this is the result, the work of group 1s, group 2 over here in 30 minutes, group 3, they prepared this, 4, and group 5. Oh, sorry, group. I must have left out one group. Oh, no, group 5. 1, 5. Yeah, I must have left out one group, so sorry about that. Okay, but you can see. The result in 30 minutes, this is what they produce to present, which is good. On this, we can know that our students are pretty tech savvy. Okay? All right. So, step 6, providing feedback and closing the unit. This is where the lecturer takes a bigger role to close the unit, but not just to close and, oh, okay, that's all, thank you, it's a good presentation. No, but to add more layers of depth to their understanding. So in order to close, this is the example of what my students have done. So they provided the different types of essay, and these are the reasons for it. Okay, but for me, my role as a facilitator, lecturer, I provided depth. What I did was I told the students that this is not just the reasons, and the reasons are not just the thing that differentiate the essays, but okay, the essays are also differentiated in terms of how it is structured, in terms of how it is written. Example, the conclusion for descriptive essay will be different from a cause and effect essay, or will be different from a problem solution essay. The thesis statement for this type of essays will also be different. And when you do that, it brings a tinkle to your student. And they're like, ah, I see. So you add on to their knowledge. Okay, so not just that, for all the recordings that took place in the teams, in the group breakout, can also be retrieved or viewed from this link, webmicrosoftstream.com/video. So the moment you click on this, or the moment you enter this link, you will be able to see all the group discussion from Microsoft Teams. Okay. Now there you go. So web Microsoft Stream, when you click at this link, this will be where all the discussions will be stored and where all your classes will be stored. Are you with me? Are you okay, everyone? Yeah? Okay. So we have pretty much covered how can it be done, okay? And next, this brings you to number 4. What are our uptakes? What can we bring home from this online learning class? Okay, so let me just reveal to you. Okay, this is the screen of my classes. All right, and you can pretty much see the beginning of MCO. When I first conducted my online class, everyone was pretty excited. You know, they come prepared. You know, you can see their faces, beautiful smiles. And as it goes over the weeks, the online class was merely me alone. And I felt like I was talking to myself only. Why? Because most of the students were switching off their videos. So what does it mean to us as educators if students switch off their videos? Not interested, isn't it? Because if they are interested, they want to be seen. They want to be visible in your class. All right? So what happens is that over the weeks, okay, I did some reflection, all right, and you can see the classes emerged, okay, from last video to slightly a little bit more opening up, and then we have more full videos, and that makes you more alive when you're teaching and more relevant when you're teaching, when you can see your students' faces. So our update number 1, by using this learner-centered approach, okay, it does enforce a positive relationship between you and your students, because you're not just providing room for yourself to interact with your students, you're also providing room for them to interact among themselves with their peers, whom they miss so much during this MCO period. Okay, and you can also see multi-dimensional communication taking place. Okay, it's not just within the breakout rooms, but also it's also between the breakout rooms and also among the classmates. All right. Next, student ownership. You push the ownership to learners that they have to be the one to be responsible of their learning. And therefore, when they know, wow, I'm the one responsible for my own learning, they step up instead of all relying on the lecturers to do that. Okay, and not just that, when you give them tasks and group work to do through online, and at that specific time where you have to monitor and get result, they think more critically on how to meet the time and how to do the work. So you provide training in thinking process, you provide management opportunities for them to manage their group discussion, and also you push them to think how to face various situations. And with that, both learners and lecturers may learn together too. Okay? And not just that, with that also students engage in deeper, richer learning, and they display more on-task behavior. Why? Because the learning environment becomes more collaborative. So my last update was with this, there is more authenticity in my teaching activities as well. Okay, it doesn't look dead, it's more alive, and not just that, you bring in substance to the activities. And because of that, individuals learn more. So just to summarize, okay, the lecturer-centered and learner-centered classroom, which I managed to conduct over the past few weeks of late of MCO, for knowledge purposes, beginning, the lecture center, it was merely transmitted from instruction. So I had to prepare, I had to take pain, I had to do more. But for learner-centered, I have to think of the task, but students are the one looking, discovering knowledge and learning, and therefore is constructed by students. It's more done. Next, student participation. When it was a lecturer-centered online class, the student participation is passive, if you can see from the black screens. But when it's learner-centered, it becomes active. And it's simple. You just use Microsoft Teams, create channels for them. Each channel, put it into group and put your students into the group, schedule their meeting for the same time which you want the discussion to take place, and just get magic to do its work. All right. Next, the role of lecturer. So in a lecturer-centered class, you are the leader. You take charge. You control everything. And that also means more work on your part. But in a learner-centered class, you provide facilitation. You are a partner in learning. And that is more inviting, especially for higher education. So the emphasis for lecturer-centered is always the correct answers. But when it's learner-centered, students have to understand why this is this. Why this type of essay has to go with this conclusion and not just any conclusion, example. And the academic culture that we are trying to build over here, if lecturer-centered, more individualistic. It's one off, and it's done, the class is done, it's over, you don't feel it. But when it's learner-centered, it's more supportive. Okay, so I hope this will move. And try to have less is more than. Okay, try not to just do more, but get more done. Okay, so this is one comic picture which I like. Okay, I think it's an exaggeration, but there's a lot of truth in saying that when you go to school, the trauma is that you must stop learning and you must now accept being taught. So try not to do this. Try not to make our learners or students think that, oh, when they come to our online class, they have to accept what is being taught. But try to encourage and cultivate more learning on your part. Okay, like what I like to quote over here as well. Harmer, when he says, good teachers care more about their students' learning than what they do about their own teaching. Okay, but what can or should teachers do? As David Noonan, okay, he's a pioneer for learner-centered approach, points out, learner-centeredness does not imply that teachers should abandon the classroom to learners. No. But Diane Lasser-Freeman was right when she said, teachers cannot just go into a classroom and let students run the show. Oh, learner-centered, you run the show. No. You, the teacher, will have to come in with some kind of prepared activities, but the activities will remove the focus from you. And according to the learner-centered approach, the teacher's function may become less dominant than before, but not less important. So, in reflection, when it is learner-centered, it is also learning-centered, not teaching-centered. And with that, we are more empathetic to their learning journey as an online teacher from now on. So we are concerned more about what students discover instead of what lecture covers. And try working on changing this classroom landscape. I know that learner-centered approach may be difficult to be applied in all your lessons, but you are the decision maker, you understand your student better, and you know what you want to achieve at the end of the day as an educator. So you think how you can apply this approach, because through my presentation over here, I'm just providing you with what I had successfully conducted, hence giving you another idea or another option in your online class teaching. Okay, so for me, I'm a firm believer of instead of do more, let's get more done by doing lesser. Okay. So I guess we have covered the 4 parts from me. All right, we have seen the introduction, we have seen why learner-centered is important and how can it possibly be done. You have seen a little bit from my sharing and what are our updates. So I hope by this point you are persuaded, if not encouraged, to adopt this learner-centered approach in your online classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yong. Now we will go ahead and take some questions from the audience. If you have any question, just drop them in the question box. Okay, let's see. The first question comes from Eng Sia Woon. Okay, so she asks, how do students respond to this approach?
Okay, I did actually have a discussion with my students whether they really enjoy this learner-centered approach, because I don't want to be short sendiri, you know. So I did ask my students, and my students said that no, they don't enjoy it because they are losing the FaceTime with their friends, and when their humors do not get through, and when the connection is not right, they don't like it, they detest it. But on the flip side, they told me the task actually gets done better and in shorter time, as compared to if they had a long time to while away by their slides. And they say that surprisingly, the product of their work is actually also better. One of the reasons, I asked them why. One of the reasons that they said because of the limited time, 30 minutes in my case, everyone in the group gave 100% of their effort to scout for information, to produce the slides that I wanted. So, because of that time, everyone has to work. But on Face, you know, some can just work, some can just ask their friends to work. But online, this is a very big thing. Everyone has to do the work. Whether they are good or not, they have to do something and they have to give something, contribute to the group discussion. So on that thing, learner-centered is nice to them. But on the flip side, they do miss their friends, and I do miss them as well. They do miss me as well. But what to do? We have to cope during this busy time.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Okay. This question comes from Masita. Okay. Her question is, in terms of marking the students' assignments, was it a challenge?
I would say yes and no. Well, why yes? For language, especially English, body language comes into play when we're marking. And through online, it's pretty much quite difficult to really see how they present, because there's not much of body language involved when they're presenting, because it's just merely sharing screen and they're just thinking, they're just talking. So we are actually only evaluating their facial expression, which sometimes for our Malaysian students, not much of facial expressions. So in that sense, it is quite difficult. But on the language part, okay, it's just the same for me as how you evaluate in a classroom. And when they are presenting, you have to make sure that how will they be evaluated. Okay, so there is a rubric. Okay, there's a rubric and a guideline on how you will be evaluating them, and make sure this guideline is disseminated and made known to them. Okay, so that guideline, it helps, and I believe that the guideline has to be adapted to assess our students, because it is not fair to give out of 50%, you give 20% to body language, okay, when it's conducted virtually, so you have to adapt as well.
Okay. Next question comes from Shamil. Okay. So his question is, what's your hope?
It's a big question actually. My hope is that I hope this session will be fruitful for you, and I hope that you will try, okay, to be open-minded and to try to adopt this approach to test in your online classes. Because as I know, from the hours of classroom teaching that we have, now it's online. You have to engage in 1 hour of pure online teaching, and the rest is more on task-based that they have to do offline. So with that 1 hour, I hope you really enlarge learning instead of you teaching. And I hope this approach is adopted. But on my last note, whatever decision that you make that best suits your student. I hope you enjoy teaching online, because I do start to get a hang of it, and I do kind of enjoy right now. So thank you.
Okay, I believe we've covered all the questions. If I may, Ms. Yong, I would like to share my takeaway from this session. Okay, number one, shifting our paradigm from taking charge to allowing the students to be in charge of their learning process behind the screen. Number two, encourage collaboration, give tasks that demand collaboration among students, let the students take charge, make them realize that they are each other's best resources. And number three, make the most out of the medium. Make the most of the medium. Images, videos, animations, graphics, even games. Okay, whatever you can think of to make the lesson more engaging. Okay, and lastly, this is my personal advice to myself and to all of you: don't get overwhelmed. I think we got this. Don't you think so, Ms. Yong?
Yes.
Okay, hope that helps. Okay, Ms. Yong, your last word before we wrap up.
My last word would be embrace the unknown. You know, don't be afraid. You got this. You have all the teaching experience from the many years. So use that to help you to adapt in these changing times. And if you find yourself in difficulties or troubles, you can always rely on your friends for suggestion, advices, because you're not in this alone. You're in this with so many other colleagues in not just your department, but PSA and the whole polytechnic, if not teaching arena as a whole. So enjoy and have fun. Discover something yourself as well. Like today, I attended the interactive slides workshop. I've learned pretty much about how to actually make your PowerPoint more interesting, how to instill, embed ODS in your videos, and a lot of these many things that our e-learning unit is doing for us to help us enrich our teaching. Use that. Don't be afraid to try. Just try. Okay, so embrace the unknown. And yeah.
Okay, we have reached the end of our session. We appreciate you being here. Thanks again for joining us today, and all the best with our online teaching. Thank you.